to a little friend, the diesel heater, straight off eBay for about 145 bucks at the time. Like they're sitting up about 180 now. You've got the exhaust. This is what they call the portable unit. Basically you got your heater at the bottom here, and you've got a 5 litre, I believe it's a 5 litre diesel tank on top of it, all inside this portable shell. The reason I went for portable over the proper bolting unit is just practicality. Even before I had this ute, well, when I first got this ute with the toolboxes, I'll show you some photos up here or up there. Had the rooftop tent, this under the back, heat up through the window, swag camping. Normally winters are no man's land for going camping. It's too cold, it's wet, it's rainy, snow, frost, whatever, unless you got a caravan. But having a diesel heater just opens up so many doors. Having heating in the canopy, having heating in the swag, having heating in a tent. I've used this with the pipe just sticking through a free gazebo off a gazebo tent. It just, waking up in the morning having your clothes nice and warm to get into, having a nice warm space to get out of your warm space, out of your sleeping bag or whatever, to get dressed. It's second to none. So that's why I went the portable unit, because I can just use it anywhere. You see there's mud on it. It was sitting at the shed door, the roller door, when I was trying to get the bongo van out last time, and it was a bit wet and got a bit bogged and covered in mud because I didn't move it out of the way. But basically it's just 12 volt into the back. I've got it on the Anderson plug, so it's running off the second battery in the canopy. Into there, you got your display here. Start him up. Just hold the power button for a bit. It goes straight for H3, which is the middle setting. I've always ran it on setting 1. That's been well and truly warm enough, so you don't really need to worry about everything else. There's a temperature gauge there, but it's reading outside temp. It doesn't run off that for the thermostat. So most of your kit units too have only got the single air exhaust, whatever you want to call it, out the front. It's a pain in the ass having the 4 little tubes like this, but you can down your heat. If it is a bit warm, you're only using it like I do this season for the Mei Opal trip. It's more so just keep condensation down the canopy. It's not overly cold, so you don't have to have all 4 pipes into that 90mm storm pipe. You can have 2 in there, and I normally just have 2 pointing up under the ute to keep the tray warm, so it helps warm everything up anyway. So or you can run them off through some 40mm storm pipe to 2 separate swags, 2 separate tents, 4 separate tents, depending on who's with you camping. So that's the telltale tick 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 there now. This exhaust gets super hot. I've seen people put the kits in vans and that sort of stuff and just drill holes through the floor, through the carpet, and that you're gonna have a fire. That exhaust gets super hot, and there's normally a little bit of smoke when it first starts up, but that's just the initial diesel starting to burn off. And that's basically it run there now. That'll be pushing hot air out. So being the portable unit, only has a 5 litre tank, whereas your other units, your Bolt in the car units, you normally got a 10 litre fuel tank. So you got that little bit more, but like the last caravan, like I'm going to do to the bongo van trailer, I've got a 20 litre jerry can, steel jerry can. I'm going to mount to the A-frame and plumb it straight into that. Yeah, so that's nice and warm there now. So yeah, you don't want your exhaust touching anything, but that's going. Now, yeah, cheap Chinese shit, it'll catch on fire, whatever. I've had this is my 3rd winter I've had this, and it's never missed a beat. Only once I was camping up at Gingelic on a frosty night, and it stopped during the night. Threw up the area code. I'm like, oh, what's happening? I ran out of fuel. So I did have it up on 2 or 3 that night, but ran out of fuel. The one problem with the fuel tank on the pickups, probably about that much higher than the bottom, so you're probably getting 4 litres of use out of it, and the other litres sitting down the bottom not getting sucked out. But one important thing, well, so that's flat out on 6. We go from 6 to 1, just pay attention to the pump. Pump and the fan. Come on. It'll do its thing. Even though it's a bit loud. So one important thing with it, I'll get back to that pump in a minute, is always shutting it down properly. Hold the power button. It says off. It's got to go through a shutdown cycle. The pump stopped pumping diesel now. It's got to burn out all the fuel that goes in it. If you just cut the power without letting it go down, that heating element in there is super hot. It needs that fan constantly blowing cold air over it to cool it down once the diesel stops pumping in there and it stops igniting, combusting. So it'll normally go for 2 or 3 minutes just in this low fan mode, cooling that heat element, but also getting rid of the last of the diesel in there. If you don't do that, that heat element being super hot can not cool down properly, and all your porcelain, all your ceramics in there can shatter. And when you go to start back up again, you can have excess diesel in there, so you could have a fire. That's normally where the fires come from, people not shutting them down properly. So that fan's still going there now. See a bit of diesel smoke coming out here as it's pushing the last of that fuel through the heating element. So anyway, back to the fan on the pump. The last caravan I had one of the more expensive, I think Wabasco they call them, diesel heaters, which that particular unit, I think it was a 4 kVA, was about $1,200 to $1,500 just for the kit. I'd hate to know how much they had Jayco, whoever installed it, put it in. But yeah, see a bit of smoke there. That's why all the exhaust stuff should be outside, not inside, but I normally have it under the roll door at a shed, that's fine. Anyway, back to the Wabasco. The biggest problem with the Wabasco one that I had in the van, you had the single thermostat dial from naught, or it wasn't even naught, it was just bottom to top. You had a growing scale of a red line. As you increase the fan speed, it didn't use any more fuel, which is, yeah, okay, it's a little bit more economical, but as the fan speed increases, you've got to be able to increase the fuel going into it so it makes more heat. Like then when I had it on 6, you could hear that diesel ticking away, pumping fuel into there to boost the heat, because the fan speed's also on 6 and going flat out. The Wabasco didn't do that, and normally on those cold frosty mornings in the van, you had to have it going flat out to, or near 3/4 anyway, to get some decent heating in the van. But because you're going so fast and it wasn't combusting as much fuel, it was almost just pushing cold air out. So once you did come back to about 1/4, it was nice, it was hot, but then you're not getting enough warm air coming into the van. It's cooling down all around you and not heating up and all that sort of stuff anyway. So that's why, for the price, for the practicality of being able to move it around different applications, I was thinking about mounting a unit in this and just plumbing into the rear fuel tank. It's just as easy doing this. Normally when I'm camping, it sits under the back like this, it doesn't get any dew on it. If it was raining, it'd be a different story. I'd have a bit of tin or something leaning on the back here, but it's it just works so well. And being able to go out in the middle of winter, the dead cold of winter, and spend the night camping somewhere, it's second to none. I'd love to go up and do a snow trip, but I'm too worried about getting stuck in the snow somewhere. So gripes about it: when you get out of the box, the terminals on the back are only screw-on terminals. Cut them off, just join the wires, because it's only low grade wire they got on here as well. So something I've got to do, put that on, get a little inline filter between the pump and the fuel tank and the pump, just because there's no filter on it. So if you do get some shitty fuel, or more so if you've got dirt and stuff in your fuel tank, you don't want that going into the igniter as well. And the plastic tank, you never really get a good seal. So I've started putting a bit of paper towel around it with a couple of hockey straps when it's in the ute. Been a couple of times where it's rock and rolling or leaning over and diesel started coming out of the cap, which hasn't been good. But now with that around there, it soaks up any spillage, and you've got a good little fire starter when you get into camp. So that's finished its cooling down cycle now. Click, fans off. So now it's safe to unplug it. Unplug. The power screen panel goes out, and you're good to pack it up. Again, making sure that's still warm, but making sure it's not on leaves, dry grass, or that sort of thing, because it will light on fire. Yeah, I don't know the exact amount, but it's probably close to about 5,000 degrees coming out of the bottom of that, the bottom of the heater. So be safe with it. Don't have it touching anything that's combustible. But that's that's my little review of this portable. It's the 5 kVA version. You can get the 8s and bigger, wider, bigger. Normally it's a bigger tank on top, and a bit more output. So as I said, 12 volt. It uses all the 12 volt power it's using is just to drive that fan. Once the diesel ignites, it stays lit, and that electric pump in there, it uses less power than the fridge. I've had it running overnight on just a battery sitting beside it with alligator clips. That battery only had 11.5 volts in it or something, so it was knackered, but it still ran it overnight. So fuel usage, I think it uses about 0.8 of a millimeter of diesel every hour. So every time it ticks. So of course, up on 6, when it's tick quicker, it's going to use more. The 5 litre tank, again, I've had it running about 9 o'clock. I turned it on before bed last night, and it went to 7 this morning. So that many hours. There's still about 2 litres left in the bottom, so I'd probably use about 2 litres overnight. So you should be able to get 2 nights out of it on its lowest setting without running out of fuel. As I said before, your bolt-in units, you can plumb them directly into your fuel tank. A friend who has been in the Cray video with me, he's got a Toyota Coaster bus. He's hard mounted his under the bed, and it just runs into the fuel tank, so he can run that thing. Well, he does run it during winter to heat the bus up, because the old Coaster doesn't have a very good heater in it, but having it pumping hot air, there's been times it's been -4, -5 outside, and it's been 18, 19 inside the bus. So again, just having the diesel heater over winter is fantastic. So then we have the ducting system now. I've always sort of used a 90mm, actually I think it's 100mm pipe, because all 4 of those tubes fit in the bottom. 90 up. Normally it was just another 90 there, and you're blowing hot air into the fridge, which is a catch-22. Over winter your fridge normally doesn't run as much because it's cold, but here you are pumping 25-30 degree air at it, and yeah, making things warm for the fridge. But I only picked this bit of flex up recently just so I can divert it. There's been times you have it pointed up over the fridge, so it's pointing towards where your sleeping. If it's a bit warmer, normally just push it over there so it's circulating the hot air that way, so it's not as hot, pointing the hot air up at the roof to get rid of condensation. Been other mornings when it's all starting to feel a bit cold, so I reach over and pull it down and stuck it like that so it's pointing me straight in the face and warming me in the sleeping bag up. But you will notice one issue here. That doesn't close. Normally I've got a bit of strap or something here to hold it so that doesn't fall over. Use the strap tied off to keep that door semi-closed. Now, yeah, you've got that big space, but again, with this thing going in there, you don't want everything shut up. Even in the middle of winter, you sort of want that hot air circling through and having somewhere to get back out again. Even when I've used this on the swag, it's gone pointing in one end, and I've had the window at the other end, so it just blows straight through. Yeah, it's a bit of a waste of hot air. It's just blowing straight through. You burn diesel to keep warm, but when you're laying on top of that sleeping bag, it's -4 outside. You're laying on top of the sleeping bag in your boxer shorts, 18, 19 degrees in your swag. It's good. So again, having that bit of air, having that gap there, just to let things circulate a bit. And then over summer, when you're in there and the mosquitoes are out or whatever, you're not going to have this open anyway, so or you're not going to be using diesel heater, so you can have it closed. So yeah, I think that's about it for the eBay Chinese diesel heater. As I said before, I got it for about $135. They're a little bit more than that now, just because it's been 3 or 4 years and they're getting very popular. Be very, very careful with the listing when you're on eBay, checking the listings, because I know some people have been caught out. They've ordered what seems to be that in photos, but it's just the shell or the cover. Read the description, make sure it contains diesel tank. It's got photos of all the fittings, lines. There'll be hose clamps, pipe clamps, the 4 ribbed pipes to go on the exhaust or the outlet. Yeah, the tank, the unit itself. Just go through, read it, and make sure everything's in the description. If you're in doubt, just email them, message them on eBay and say, hey, is this a complete unit? Because some people have bought it for $80 thinking I've got a bargain, and they open the box and it's just the case. So be very mindful of that. I see some people locally on Marketplace, they're getting 10 or 12 units in, putting them together and then selling them for about $200. You can do that if you want, pay a little bit extra money. That way you remove that risk of it not turning up or something happening in the mail. You're buying something here, you can go and see it, put 12 volts on it, you make sure it starts up and all that before you buy it. But yeah, it's definitely handy. So that's it for the 12 volt. Oh, I've got mail. That's it for the 12 volt diesel heater. Essential thing to have this time of year. As I said before, so many applications. This, swags, tents. I even use it in the shed at home. Just being able to go out, alligator clip onto a battery, within 2 minutes it's cycled up and starting to push hot air out. Whereas if you went in there, you'd spend 4 or 5 minutes getting kindling to getting the pot belly or your shed fire. By the time it gets going enough to start feeling the heat off it, 9 times out of 10 you're done in there, or you've already frozen to death. So it's definitely a good little thing to have. So I recommend it. Go and pick one up. As I said, be careful. Read all the descriptions on eBay or everything else. Be careful setting it up. Keep that exhaust away from combustibles, and you too will have summer vacation in the middle of winter with 20 to 30 degrees of hot air blowing in your face.